it's most likely going to lose you money.
Do you ever feel weird having that information out there?
I actually made a decision to stop publishing that stuff.
So you still think it makes more sense to rent than to buy?
Yeah, it's twice as expensive to buy than to rent. What is the point of like making money? Am I trying to hit a certain number?
Tried to make it as hard as they could, I feel, to know what return I was actually even getting. Okay, guys, welcome back to Step by Step with me, Shelby Church. I have Humphrey Yang here with me today, and we're in a studio. Guys, we're stepping it up. We're getting more professional. And Humphrey, if you guys aren't familiar, is a personal finance YouTuber, former financial advisor, so I'm excited to chat about that. I feel like we should start with some context of like how you got started in YouTube and everything, and social media, because you're big on like TikTok and Instagram and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the studio first? I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know this in LA. You can rent studios by the hour, like this one, and this is actually really nice.
Yeah. No, it's cool to like have it. No, I joined a network and this is like a studio they have.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. In SF, we don't have anything like this. So like if I wanted a podcast, I'd have to build it myself.
So you can't even rent one?
I don't think so. I'd have to look into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your question? YouTube.
Yeah. So how you got started in it? Yeah. How long? I'm curious. Were you one of those people who had a viral video, or were you like a gradual growth channel?
Yeah. So on YouTube, I started in 2019. I made 3 videos in the summer of 2019 to try to help my friends with their personal finances. But really, I was just inspired by Graham, as we all are.
A pioneer, and, a real pioneer.
A pioneer of finance.
Yeah.
And so I made 3 videos kind of like in his style. They didn't do very good at all. And I kind of gave up. And I was watching TikTok in August of 2019 for fun. Like my friend told me about it. I overheard about it in like a bookstore. So I was watching it and I was addicted. I remember searching hashtag personal finance on TikTok in August, and there was one video. And so I was like, okay, this is a big green space. Maybe I can make my finance videos there. So at the end of 2019, it took me a little bit more time, but December 2019, I made my first TikTok video and it did really well. I think the first video got like 1,500 views. Yeah. And on YouTube, I had 10. Right.
Oh,
so this was huge.
Yeah. When you start from scratch, it's hard to just get any momentum, like any views at all.
100%. So I was like, okay, I'll try this for 30 days. And by like day 20, I had 100,000 followers on TikTok.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I've been posting for like over a year, not very consistently, and I'm at like 20,000.
Yeah, but it was way different back then. I felt like
good time.
A basic video would get you like 10,000 followers.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I made a video about a dividend stock, just like Coca-Cola being a dividend stock, got me 10,000 followers.
Wow. And
then I made a video about a Hydro Flask being expensive, got me like 90,000 followers.
Oh my God.
So it was just easy.
Yeah.
And then by pandemic start, I had like 300,000. And then I was like, okay, well, I might as well keep going.
You were way ahead of the game on that. Yeah.
That by only like 5 months. 4 months if you think about it.
Yeah.
So I got kind of lucky in that respect, but I did see that opportunity and it's like, okay, I'll do that. And then at the same time, I would build my YouTube at the same time. And I wasn't very good at YouTube. I realized looking back, like I would just make a video and also make my TikToks at the same time.
Yeah.
And on YouTube, I would say, to answer your question, it's always been very gradual. No viral hits. I did have one in November of like 2021 about the metaverse. I got like 1 million views in like a week. That was my best one maybe. And it didn't really get even subscribers that would stick around. So I feel like it's always been a really slow, steady grind on YouTube specifically.
Yeah. Same for the most part, except for when I had that one video like really pop off. I was like, whoa. And then where were you in your life? Like, were you working as a financial advisor then?
No. So I had quit my job in tech in 2016.
Oh, okay. So that was after financial advisor era.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was financial advisor and then I went to tech, mostly mobile video games for like 4 years. And then I quit because I wanted to start my own business before the age of 30. That was my goal.
Oh, cool.
And I was selling posters online. They were like these custom posters that you could, custom posters of maps.
Did you design them or like?
So we plugged into OpenStreetMaps, which is an API, and it's like a Google Maps. We had some software on top that would make it look really colorful and beautiful. And then you could customize it. So like we could zoom in on your street cross section and be like, oh, Shelby's home. And then we could customize it. And then, as decor.
Yeah. So it was like printed here.
Printed in Dallas.
Oh, in Dallas. Cool.
At first it was San Francisco, but then I found a big supplier in Dallas that would do it for a lot cheaper and ship them for me. So it was essentially drop shipping just in the US.
That's unique. Yeah. I feel like so often I at first assumed it was like you got them on Alibaba or something, like
Right.
some maybe, I don't know, generic thing, and sell it. Whoa, that's like cool. And like easier to ship and not
Easier
have
to ship. Yeah,
deal with all that.
3-day shipping. So most people were not upset. I think that's the
great.
problem with drop shipping is people like they drop ship and it takes 3 weeks for you to get the item, and then you get a bunch of chargebacks, and the payment processor gets mad, and your whole business is like shot.
Yeah, I've looked into a lot of that, like Amazon FBA and all that stuff, and I'm like, does it even, like, every time I research it more, I'm like, are people really making that much from it once after all the fees and whatever?
I don't know.
And a lot of competition. Maybe if it's a unique product.
It probably has to be pretty unique.
But yeah, so you did that. So it was like pretty successful.
It probably did 300K in sales the first half
good.
year,
I feel
and then
like
it did
that's good.
870K in sales.
Oh,
and
damn.
then
Okay.
like 600 the last year, and then I started making social media, and I slowly sunsetted that business.
So
But
you
the
didn't
margins
sell
weren't
it or
great.
anything? Oh, so the
Great.
revenue was like 300.
Yeah, the revenue was 300, but I probably took home 10% of that, so like 30K the first year, and I was living at home. And then the next year, I probably took home 45K, 50K.
Yeah.
We spent a lot on ads.
Yeah.
And a lot inefficiently on ads, and a lot on a developer to like make our website better, because we like kept wanting to build it for the future. I had a co-founder too, and so like we had to split the profit. So it wasn't super lucrative, but it did teach me a lot, and I actually had to grow an Instagram account because of that.
Oh,
So I kind of
that
knew how to grow
helps.
social media, and then I was like, okay, let me try YouTube, because I always wanted to try it. That takes us to
Now you can like connect the dots on things, because I'm sure working as a financial advisor, even for a little bit, helped a ton with YouTube, because then you had all this content.
I think it helps a ton too, just when someone comes to your page and is like, okay, what qualifies this person to talk about?
You're reputable.
This. I did a conference it was a conference in Chicago, and they had me speak to a bunch of mutual fund people, like mutual fund professionals.
Okay.
And I was paired up with like a couple other influencers at this thing, and the other influencers were money influencers, but they didn't have any credentials.
Yeah.
And so a really hard question they kept getting asked by the mutual fund people in the audience were like, what qualifies you to talk about this stuff?
They're like, I Google it a lot.
And then you could tell the audience kind of groaned with their responses. But then when I said like, oh, like I used to be a financial advisor, I could like almost see the audience like sit upright a little bit more. Like they
I
like,
bet.
had a little more
like,
respect towards
okay.
it. So I think it helps a little bit,
Yeah.
for sure.
Was it difficult to get into that field? Because I know you have to take a test, right?
Right.
So it's like can you have any college degree, or you had a finance degree?
I had a finance degree, and they probably look for more business or economics or finance degrees, but it's not that hard to get into, surprisingly.
But you have to have a degree.
I would, I think these are more traditional financial institutions, so
Yeah.
they probably want you to have a degree, but it's not too hard. You basically apply to become a financial advisor. There's usually these beginner programs, they call them. I forget what mine was called. They had like a certain acronym. And in the beginner program, you get paid a salary. I think mine was like 50K a year. So you get some like really low base salary. And the first 4 months, you're just studying for the Series 7 and 66 on
so
their
you get
dime.
Paid.
You get
That's pretty cool. Okay, this is good for people to know.
And then you're expected to pass the 7 and the 66. And if you
was
don't,
it hard?
the 7 I passed on the first time. I think the minimum to pass is 72%, and I got it on the number.
Nice.
So like I was like, whew,
Yeah.
whew. And then the 66 was a lot easier to pass. I think it was like 80% passed you, but I had like a 90%. It wasn't too hard.
Oh, cool.
But the 7 was definitely a lot of material. It definitely takes like 3 to 4 months to study for, and I'm awful at standardized tests. So I was like,
Me
oh,
too.
please, like
The real estate exam, I was
Yeah.
like, especially when you haven't studied in a long time. It's
Right.
like weird to get your brain back into that. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the gist of it. And then after you pass, you either work for a team that already exists, like a wealth management team, and your whole job is to like get clients or like figure out like how you're going to prospect new people to get new money in.
Which I feel like is kind of hard when you're new.
It's hard when you're 24, 25 because it's like, why should anyone listen to you? So you end up calling a lot of people randomly. You end up trying to like do like a little sales pitch to people that you know. I don't really like that part. A lot of the part of the program was like they wanted a bunch of new people, like kids, to kind of like use them for their network. Like, get your parents' friends in, get their assets under management. And then after you pass the test, you would go off commission plus a base salary. And then they would slowly, after it was the course of like 36 months or 48 months, you slowly make less and less every month as a base salary. And then you're supposed to get You're supposed to be paid fully on commission
That's
by the time you
interesting.
graduate the program.
Interesting. So they know that it's like, it takes time to get to build that, especially because like when you're getting a commission, is it that small fee that you get for managing?
Yeah. So like, gosh, there were a lot of shady ways to increase your commission.
Oh,
so
this
like,
is fascinating.
Yeah. So a lot of financial advisors, there's different types of mutual fund shares that you can sell your client. So like, let's say you were a client of mine. I could either put you in a normal ETF index fund and you pay, let's say, 0.35% of assets under management for that fund.
Yeah.
It would all be wrapped up in like an annual fee. But then there were these other types of shares, like we'd call them A shares. And what that meant was all the fees are front loaded. So like you would pay for these A shares, which is basically the same type of mutual fund as any other mutual fund. It's just a different classification.
Okay.
But the advisor would get paid first because they're A shares.
So even if the stock goes down, do they get paid?
Yeah. It's, as long as they sell you, like, let's say $10,000 worth of this thing, they get paid whatever it is, like $500 on it. And you pay for that fee as the client. And eventually the idea is like, if you hold it long enough, the fee kind of like amortizes out and like, balances
but then
out.
You have to hold that. It's like, what if you don't? What if it's not performing well?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I wonder. I had a financial advisor for a while. And then once I took over it, I was like, why the hell are some of these stocks are not doing that well?
No, exactly.
I was like, maybe they're
and then
doing that.
The other thing I found fascinating about the industry was like, you just put people into products that are pretty standard, like ETFs, index funds and stuff like that. But then you charge way higher of an expense ratio or a fee for these things.
Yeah.
And then a lot of what it is like relationship, what's the word? Managing the relationship.
Yes. I would imagine like stock market goes down during COVID. I bet everybody's calling.
Everybody calls their advisor when the market's down. It's like, hey, what's going on? Like, should I be selling? And then the advisor's job is to kind of just manage their expectations.
Yeah, like calm them down. Like, don't panic.
And just hold.
Yeah.
But the main premise of the industry is charge you 1% of your assets under management.
That's what the one that I had did, yeah.
Yeah, and that's generally not, that's probably a ripoff if you're just investing, like self-investing into ETFs and index funds. Where they do make sense, where it does make sense to have a financial advisor is if they're doing some planning for you, like retirement planning, estate planning, tax planning, that sort of thing. That's definitely worth the 1%.
Right.
But there are a lot of people that just like you or I who are quite young who just want to self-invest.
Yeah.
It's not worth it for you.
Yeah.
But some people want the hand holding of like an advisor to talk to. It's like, yeah, that's just what it is.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like a certain net worth or whatever where it makes more sense.
Probably over $1 million. It starts to like $1 million assets under management probably makes more sense.
Did you ever like deal with alternative investments? I know some people who do like mineral rights and stuff like that. Like did they do that
at the advisory?
They don't
firm?
do that.
I bet you could ask them to do it and they would look for a product for you if you, the client, really wanted it, if you were interested. But I'm pretty sure they would say like, they would say like, oh, you should only have like 3% of your portfolio in this stuff.
It seems risky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there were definitely clients that would have like alternative investments or like riskier plays, or they wanted to buy options and stuff, and they would call their advisors for that. Yeah. That's pretty common. I would say that's up to the discretion of the client themselves. But if you were just like a stock person and we were just recommending you a stock type of portfolio that was like well balanced and risk adjusted for your risk profile and your time horizon, it's probably just ETFs.
Yeah. And how long does it take to like put that together? Is there like a standard sort of copy and paste thing?
Yeah,
like you can't actually copy and paste.
Yeah, they would like meet with you, have like a full like investor questionnaire meeting, try to figure out your goals and risk tolerance and how long you want to invest for. And then we would go back and do some research on like what ETFs to put you in. That whole process could take a week or two. And then, you have another meeting. And it's like, okay, would you like to move forward with this? And then you go and buy it.
Yeah.
And then ideally every quarter you get a call on like the results and like how it did. Yeah.
I found when I had a financial advisor, the online portal was very confusing. Like it was as hard as they wanted to make it or they tried to make it as hard as they could, I feel, to know what return I was actually even getting. Like I would screenshot it and be like, guys, what does this mean? When understand when I'm managing it myself. I mean, now I've taken some of the old screenshots and put it in ChatGPT and it kind of figures it out. But they made it confusing. I'm like, why is this so?
Yeah, they're pretty convoluted if I remember.
Yeah.
And it's not like Robinhood where you're like, oh, look, okay, I've lost this much. It's usually like cost basis, different tax lots, different little things. You're like, what is this? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then when you were first working there and like getting people to not sign up, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's essentially, move their assets over. Yeah.
Is there a minimum that they would make you guys have, like that someone has, or would they be like, oh, someone has like $5,000, you can start working with them?
Yeah, I think they would recommend that you target people with over at least 50 to 100K assets under management.
Yeah,
or else $5,000 is not worth it.
Right? It's, yeah, for the time.
Yeah, but ideally you would get clients over 250K assets under management. And
over time.
Over time. Yeah.
And then do people stay at that kind of company for a while and then just start their own thing usually? Would they bring the clients with them?
I would say of all the graduates, like 90% churn out within 4 years. So that I was one of them.
Yeah.
And then the 10% that remain will actually, have a book of business and they'll probably build it up there. And then it's a pretty cushy job if you can get a big book of business. Like you could probably make 500 to 800K passively every year with just like calling like your clients and managing their. It's not too hard
chill.
once you get established. But there were a couple advisors that had been there for like 20 years, and that's at the point they got established. Working for a team is harder. It'll be more safe, but you might not have as much upside.
Yeah.
And then, some people take another thing is like, once you build a book of business, you get poached by another company. So like, let's say you work at Morgan Stanley and you have a big book of business. Goldman Sachs might call you, be like, hey, you take your book of business over here. We'll give you like a $1 million bonus up front.
Wow.
But you have to get your assets over here.
Oh, and people might be like, I don't want to.
Yeah. So as you, as the financial advisor, you can move to Goldman and you're going to get some people that'll come with you, but then you'll also get some people that are like, nah, I'll just stay with Morgan Stanley. It's too much to move it. And so that's also a thing that you have.
That's interesting. It's honestly similar to real estate.
Yeah.
Like they'll have brokerages will want realtors to move and whatever. It's kind of funny. And people will join a team and the team wants the leads that those people who are new might have.
Yeah,
so
fair.
It's kind of funny. It's like similar.
It's very similar, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So you obviously you didn't like love it if you did it for just a year.
Yeah, I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I thought that you could do much better investing on your own. And then I thought that it would move too slow. Like by the time, like that whole process to invest probably took 2 to 3 weeks versus like you could just invest today.
Yeah.
It's like
why are they making it so complicated?
Yeah, and then like if you like as an example, if you want to place a trade with options through your account, you'd have to call your advisor to place the options, and then they'd have to confirm it for you and all that stuff, which is fine. That's like it's more traditional. So that's why I left. Yeah.
Do you mess with options or anything like that?
I have in the past, and it's just come to burn me. So I think I made 50K on an options trade with GameStop in 2021.
Wow, that's really good.
And then I kept trading options that year, and then you can now see your lifetime profit and loss on options, and I'm down 5K.
Oh, dang.
So I went from like up 50K on one trade, and then all the way back down to -5. So basically, no, I stopped altogether.
Yeah. And for people who aren't familiar with options, it's different than just buying a stock. It's like
it's a leveraged play on a stock, and
you like pay a fee, right? To have the option to buy it, like maybe $1,000 to buy like GameStop or whatever. Or do you remember the details of it?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, are you mean of my trade specifically, or how an option works?
Like that GameStop one, if you remember it all. Like
roughly? So I think so an option gives you the right to buy certain shares at a certain price by a certain time. So there's a lot of like moving parts. Yeah. And I remember I bought call options on GameStop stock. I think I had $21 call options, and I bought it in November of 2020. And they were not going to expire until like March of 2021. And then the whole GameStop stuff happened in January of 2021. Yeah. So imagine like having the ability to buy GameStop shares at $21 and GameStop was trading at like 200, right? Like all of a sudden, like you could just exercise these shares, exercise your option, get all the shares and sell them at the profit.
Yeah.
So
like you get it. Like if people haven't done this, because I'm like, I feel like it can be a confusing one. It's like you're buying the $200 share, you're only paying $21.
Yes, it's locking in a certain price
even though it goes up.
Even though it goes up.
You have to like pick that time. I feel like that's kind of hard to be like,
Yeah.
okay, today's the day.
Yeah, you have to pick the time frame, and the time frame, it's called time decay, is what really kills you as an options trader, because the value of your option goes down over time as it approaches the expiry date.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, and so there's like a whole bunch of, there's way more volatility, and I would say it's more like gambling more than investing.
Yeah,
for sure.
I feel like it's the kind of thing where it's like, if you haven't invested before, like just don't even mess with it, honestly. It's like people do it kind of for fun almost.
Yeah, I would say there's a culture of doing it for fun right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's like a
some
leveraged
people-
bet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think these days it's pretty easy to do, and the brokerages will like,
Robinhood,
yeah,
yeah.
they'll teach you how to do it, but even still, it's confusing, I would say, for most people, and it's most likely going to lose you money. Most likely.
Definitely. Do you have any other like fun trades or risky ones that, like, do you do any individual stocks for fun?
Yeah. So when I first started making finance YouTubes, I was 100% in index funds, but now my equities portfolio is 50% index funds and 50% individual stocks.
Oh my gosh. And so you can compare how they do.
Yeah. And obviously the individual stocks have really made me a lot of money in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But I only am concentrated into 6 stocks right now. So it's
Do you
like
talk
Apple,
about
Meta, Google, like all the tech stuff, Nvidia, Robinhood, and JP Morgan. And they all went up like crazy. And that's why I think now my portfolio is 50-50, because I just haven't rebalanced it. And like the individual stocks have just made up such great gains. Like Nvidia,
Yeah.
obviously Apple in the last few years, Google.
Totally. Do
And
you ever
Robinhood,
like
yeah.
sell them, or do you buy and hold forever kind of thing?
I would sell some if they're at long-term capital gains, so held over a year.
Yeah.
If I think that my portfolio is too out of like whack, like I don't have enough cash. So I always want to have some cash on the sidelines just in case like there's a dip or a
Yeah.
flash crash happens again.
Yeah.
I definitely want some
Like
cash.
during COVID, were you able to jump into that?
Yes, but not enough. I wish I had more. Like that would have been a huge opportunity, I
Yeah.
think. But still, even if things are down like 40%, you're still like, it's hard to pull the trigger on buying. It's still psychologically difficult.
I know it definitely feels
But I
that,
do sell
yeah.
some individual stocks here and there, but really only if they're long-term capital gain. They qualify for long-term capital gains. And ideally, I don't. Ideally, you hold forever.
I try to not really sell unless I'm like, this company, I'm not using it even. Like I actually don't
Believe
think-
in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, like honestly, recently I sold Starbucks. I was like, they're kind of going downhill.
Yeah, and the experience in a Starbucks lately hasn't been great as it
Yeah.
used to be.
They changed a lot of things. Did you
Yeah.
see that?
Yeah.
It's getting mixed reviews. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, it's like these reusable cups, which I'm like, okay, cool. If you're in store, you don't have to get them. You can say to go, I think. I saw there was like a
I
cardboard
didn't see that.
lid. Yeah, but they're
Oh.
like free refills on it.
Okay.
You have to buy something to like sit down or like use the bathroom, which I think is kind of good. I mean,
That's pretty standard at most places.
yeah, I mean, honestly, you go and you're probably going to do that anyway. Just in general, I found I never go there anymore. Like I used to actually when I lived in Washington, because they have drive-throughs everywhere.
Right.
But in California, they don't. I'm like,
don't.
why don't they? This is like the biggest car culture place ever.
I'll go probably once every week or every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I just get my favorite thing there. Vanilla sweet cream cold brew.
Nice. That is a good
But I'll
trick.
usually just like get it and leave. I don't really stick around or anything.
Do you feel like, did you have a time where you were grinding with YouTube and like making money? Or like, did you ever have that almost like Graham Stephan type mentality of like saving a lot? Or how have you approached?
I still think I'm grinding a lot with YouTube in a lot. Like I just
You
don't
post
do
a lot.
I don't do 3 times a week like Graham. I feel
That's
like that would lead
crazy.
me to burn out. But I've been consistently posting 1 or 2 videos for the last 4.5 years.
That's,
A week, sorry.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I feel like I'm grinding a lot and I save a lot of the money. So my rule is with the income that I get, I try to live off 20% of it, which
That's
is
really
very
good.
a very grateful position to be in. I don't want to say that it's not, but I try to live off 20%. 40% goes to taxes, and then 40% I try to invest. So 40-40-20 is my split.
Yeah, that's great.
And I have this whole spending tracker spreadsheet, and it'll tell me based on how much I've spent already this year if I'm under the 20% or over the 20%.
Oh, dang.
I'm way under right now, which is
Oh,
good.
that's good.
But I'm trying to save as much as I can. I don't know why. I think I have like this weird habit of wanting to save money.
Yeah,
Even though
do
I'm
you have
like,
a goal with it? Like, oh, I want to hit this amount. Because I have like
No.
a specific kind of thing, I feel like.
I just want to buy a house.
Yeah.
Which is hard in the
Oh,
Bay.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about also, like renting versus buying.
Yeah, I think I can buy. I mean, I could buy a house now already in the Bay if we just liquidated some stocks, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
Or with like a down payment, I could do that. I just don't want to. I want to be able to comfortably afford a house in the Bay Area.
Yeah. and get like what you want, not like settle on something.
Yeah, which would be like $3 million or something.
Yeah.
It's like, that's too much. So I've just been kind of, I don't have a goal. I was actually thinking about this yesterday and the day before. Like, what is the point of making all this, like making money? Am I trying to hit a certain number? And I was thinking like how I want to be fulfilled. And I think I just want to make content that people want to watch.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about
fulfilling.
like toying around with like a new show idea.
Oh.
Like creating a separate channel with a show on it.
That's cool. Do you know like what you would do with okay, but something different?
Yeah, something where like I would still make the finance content, but then I would have a separate show that would just be that theme. So like maybe we talk about, I don't know, UFOs. I'm just giving you an idea, like UFOs and conspiracy theories. Like all the content about that could go on that channel, and that would be like really high production value.
And
I just don't know what it's
doing
about.
A podcast too.
I'm testing that too.
You're testing it.
So we're gonna test the podcast and test the show and see which one I like to do better, but something more fulfilling that isn't necessary for money. Because I feel like personal finance content can get to a place where like you're just making the videos because you feel like they'll do good for AdSense or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like every YouTuber has that issue where it's like sometimes you just go too hard into like what you think will do well, and then it's not very fun. And you have to like do something for fun. Like the most fun I have making videos, unfortunately, is with copyrighted music.
Yeah.
So I never do it. But I'm always like, maybe I should just do like one every once in a while just so I'm like having fun.
Yeah. That's kind of what I miss is like making a video for fun.
Yeah.
And I just had, I just got off this, I just made this one video on my channel, Stock Market for Beginners 2025, 51 minutes long. It took me like 2 weeks to make this video.
Dang.
And it's not the funnest stuff, but it's definitely necessary for the channel. And also like if it does well, it gets you a lot of revenue because it's evergreen and like you get all these new viewers to the channel. So it's like one of those necessary evils.
Yeah.
And it's still good information. I'm proud of the video, but it's like, you don't wake up thinking, I can't wait to make this stock market for beginners video.
Well, okay, if you ever, I'm sure you'll eventually like buy real estate, then you can do one of the videos comparing it to the stock market, like how it's done.
Yeah,
your video did well.
Yeah, it did so good.
I did not expect that. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I like your real estate videos.
Thanks.
Or I remember your Airbnb era.
Yeah.
And all like I think everyone really enjoyed the thoroughness of your costs that you would put in there.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
I think because a lot of people will share just in general about any business, like the revenue, but not the expenses.
Right.
So then it looks better than it is. And I was like, wait,
right.
There's so many more expenses than I realized. But I'm still like, luckily I bought it in a place where I like to visit, so otherwise that would kind of suck. Yeah, because I know some people, I don't know, they'll buy in like Big Bear and then they'll never go to it, and it's like, okay, you really hope that it makes money. Yeah, I guess right now, so you still think it makes more sense to rent than to buy?
At least in San Francisco, for now it does.
Yeah.
I think I looked at the stats and it's like twice as cheap. Sorry, it's twice as expensive to buy than to rent in San Francisco, particularly.
That's crazy.
So I'm just renting for now.
And you can find a place that you like to rent for that amount. I feel like that's the thing.
The comparable place, if I were to try to buy it, would be like, I don't know, $2.5 million. And I live in it, for rent, and it's like way cheaper.
Yeah. And then it would have maintenance and everything.
Yeah, and I'd have to deal with everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's tough.
They
And property
always do.
tax.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I know. That's the thing people forget. Because sometimes I'll look at it's like, oh, people forget if they are renting, or they're like, oh, rent is so expensive in places where the property tax goes up, because it doesn't actually in California. If you buy,
it stays pretty,
it's like a tiny % per year.
Right.
But say you buy in Texas and like the rent goes up, well, yeah, the owner has a lot more expenses with the property tax because it gets reassessed if the property values go up. But yeah, I feel like that's the one benefit of buying in California is locking in a lower property tax.
Yep. My dad has had a house since 1983
Whoa.
in the Bay.
Wow.
And our property taxes are still about 1% of the purchase price he paid in 1983.
Dang.
Actually, it's gone up due to inflation, obviously, but it's still like comparably way lower than it should be.
Yeah.
For sure, by a lot.
That's crazy.
So that's why people in California don't sell, I think.
No,
yeah.
right? And it used to be that they could pass it to their kids without the tax changing, but now it does.
I think it goes up now, unfortunately.
I know people have mixed feelings on that. Like they're like, oh, it's not fair that the other people are paying a lot more in taxes. But I'm kind of like, I mean, if they're able to make it work, why tax people more for property? I don't know. Like I'm kind of pro just keeping it lower.
Yeah, let's keep it
But
lower. I mean, we
biased.
pay so much more in California taxes anyway. Like the
Income
whole
tax.
11% income tax.
Yeah.
and the gas tax.
Oh, I don't pay that one.
I know you don't pay that one, but gas in California is like $4.50 to $5 a gallon.
Dang.
Versus like in Alabama or something, it's like $3.
Way cheaper. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There's just little things that California taxes you for.
What do you think about all the California slander these days? Like people love to hate on it.
So SF is getting a lot better. We just got a new mayor,
cool.
and that was like publicized on TV, and we see a lot more tourists coming, and it's like a nice city.
Yeah.
People like it.
It's a cool city. Yeah.
So like I think SF got slandered a little bit too much, like unrightfully so. And then other parts about California, I don't know. I think people are just jealous. It's nice to live here.
Yeah. I mean, I think
come visit Shelby for like 2 weeks.
If it was come to Palm Springs, if it was really that bad, people wouldn't live here. People wouldn't pay the high price.
Right.
I mean, I get it's like the weather is so amazing. That's like why I really like it. And now my family lives in Palm Springs, so that's nice. But I don't know. I'm just like, I don't think it's as bad as people are always saying. They're like, California is so horrible. I'm like, no. I was in South Carolina a while ago, and these people are like really hating on California. And I was like, wait, have you guys been there ever? And they hadn't.
Oh,
and I'm like, then
that's funny.
Can you judge it? But yeah.
Where are they from? Charleston?
I think like Louisiana. This one girl is from Louisiana, and I was like, oh well, yeah, come check it out. You might like it.
Come live in San Diego for a week. I think you'd like it. Yeah, it's really crazy.
Like people love San Diego.
Yeah,
but I get it. It's like the quality of life you get for certain like price points.
Right.
Yeah, it would be better if you're making like $80K a year to live somewhere else. It honestly would be a better quality of life.
Yeah, $80K here you would not. Yeah, it would be tough. I can see that.
Yeah, there's always like parts that kind of work. Like you just go 40 minutes outside any city and it's cheaper, but it's still pretty. I guess LA, it's like you go an hour and a half outside. You go to like the Inland Empire.
You have to go out there. Yeah, for sure.
And then it's like a little more like normal prices, but like not even that normal. Yeah. I'm comparing to Washington, which is still a lot. I guess.
Do you like it way more here than? I'm gonna ask you this later, but.
I do.
Definitely.
I like it a lot more. Yeah. Good. I feel like there's just more going on. I just like the luxury of being able to go on a walk and the sun is out. Like, to me, that's in
December or January. Yeah.
It's a basic thing, but I'm like, I just like to be able to do that. Like, it's nice. Listen to a podcast. Like, it's great.
Listen to Step by Step.
Yeah. Like, that's the whole idea. Going on a walk with me. Would you ever do like an Airbnb kind of thing?
Yeah, I've thought about that. Like an investment property for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely think that whenever I buy some sort of property, it'll go on the channel. You might as well.
Would you buy a place you have to renovate?
Yeah, but I don't think I would personally renovate it. I mean, you did a lot of work for your place.
I did a bathroom.
Yeah, that looks insane.
It was really hard.
Like the shower tiling or whatever. It's like, whoa, Shelby's in it.
Yeah, it was kind of fun because I'm just always on my computer. So I kind of liked that.
Yeah, like something tactile with your hands.
And it made me appreciate just hiring a contractor more, honestly, because I'm like, these people are skilled. Like this stuff is not easy to do. And in some ways I kind of regretted doing some of it because I'm like, a professional could have done it a little better.
Yeah.
So it made me appreciate contractors. It's not easy work. It honestly, you're sore after,
Are you going to try to buy a home in LA, like the LA area?
I don't know. Like I want to, but the thing is, I feel like if I lived in a house in LA, I would be like sketched out kind of. I kind of like renting right now because again, I see like the stock market returns and I'm like, I can just rent until that price point where you get a lot more and you really like it. Anything I'd buy right now would be a compromise. But since I have a real estate license, I could like sell it with like lower fees at least.
That's true. Yeah. You could.
So I've thought about that. Okay, one thing I like to know, anything that you splurge on. Yeah,
I like splurging on convenience or anything that makes me feel luxurious. So like I like a nice hotel. I'm about to try Jet Suite X on Wednesday, which is 2 days from today, for a video.
Yeah.
But if I like it and it's worth the cost, like an extra $100, I think I might fly it more often.
Yeah.
I have a sneaky suspicion that I will probably like it way more than I should.
Everyone who talks about it, I've never heard someone not like it.
So Jet Suite X, for those that don't know, is a semi-private airline, and you basically roll up to the airport. There's no security. You kind of just check in, and I guess according to some people at the studio right now, you just get fed a bunch of drinks, like a lot of drinks, and then you're off in the air. And then when you land, it's just like a really easy tarmac situation. You get off. So I think I'll really like that. So I like to pay for things like that. And I really like sushi. So definitely splurge on that.
Oh, do you have any regretful purchases?
Yeah, cheap furniture.
Oh, that's a good one. It's
Yeah.
like you just end up getting rid of it. Then you have to buy expensive stuff.
Yeah, you end up getting rid of it. It's hard to Facebook Marketplace sell it because people don't want it. And then it's like you end up selling it for like $30. Like some sketchy person comes to your place. It's like, oh, I want this.
You're like, am I gonna
I'm
die?
just like, what's the point? And then, but I understand the need for some cheap furniture, especially if you're not going to be there for a long time. But I think if you've moved to a place where you just are going to settle there for like 5-10 years, you might as well invest in some good furniture.
Yeah.
And be happy with it all the time, rather than like, I had an IKEA table, it sucked, it would like fall apart. I had IKEA chairs, so uncomfortable in the dining room. And I would just be embarrassed to have people over. You know, I'm just like, I don't really want to have you over. It's just because I didn't want to spend an extra like $100 extra dollars on a chair or something.
Yeah. So. And nicer furniture does last longer, I've noticed. I'm like, shout out Article. I love them.
I should try them.
Good quality stuff. Yeah. And it's like, if you're going to buy it like in 5 years, you might as well buy it now and enjoy it for longer because it'll last. Or if you sell it, the resale value is way better.
Yeah.
Like people
100%.
will spend, you sell it for like half of what you bought it for. Sometimes people do more even.
Yeah. I don't know. Furniture feels like it depreciates really fast.
Some of it.
Yeah. What do you splurge on? I feel like you're a experienced person.
Yeah. I splurge on tennis classes.
Okay.
Anything tennis related now. Travel sometimes. But like certain things, like I'll fly economy, international, unless I can find a good like points
like a good
deal or something. Yeah. I like to splurge on hotels too, but like to a certain amount. I'm like, you know,
not 1,000 a night, but like 500 a night would be good.
1,000 a night. I'm like, ooh, I don't know, 500, and I'm like splitting it with my sister.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that. What else? I don't really spend that much on like clothes.
Oh, interesting.
Noticed. I try not to for like an influencer type thing, but sometimes I feel like I'm like, I should probably buy some more stuff because I'm always on camera. Probably travel is like the main thing, and then experiences like going out to eat or whatever. Like I'm never gonna not go do something with friends to save money because I feel like I'm at a place where I don't really need to.
Sure.
But sometimes I will be like, okay, I don't want to Uber that far, so I'm just not gonna drink.
Yeah, I hear
that's maybe where I'll save because I hate spending on Ubers.
Yeah,
I hate it. It's like $100. It could easily be on like a Saturday because they're more expensive.
Yep.
$100 on an Uber or a Waymo.
Do you tip on an Uber? And if so, how much?
If they take me to the airport and they like help me with the bag, then I'll do like $5 or $10 depending.
Okay. What if they just normal ride?
I don't usually.
Oh, interesting.
I'm like, do people do that?
I don't know. So like I've just been kind of in this dilemma. I was asking my friends about it, and the airport ride is definitely for sure. Like you tip $5-10 on the fare, depending on what the fare is. But I had friends tell me like, oh no, you tip an Uber driver 15-20% for a normal ride. And I'm like, so I've started doing that in LA now that I'm here, but I'm like, should I be tipping 10 to 15%?
I don't
and then
know.
if you ask the driver how much they get from Uber, it's like a fraction of what you pay. I think Uber's taking it all.
Oh my God.
It's like really
annoying.
messed up. Yeah.
I mean, soon it's all going to be Waymos and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
That's also why I like taking Waymos, because like the price is the price. It's usually a little cheaper than an Uber, at least if you have a lot of Waymos in your area, and you don't have to tip.
Yeah. Were you afraid to take it at first?
No, I don't think I was ever afraid. I think the first time was weird.
Do you talk to people who are? I feel like everyone is like,
Yeah, I talked to some random strangers in Santa Monica yesterday from Montana, and they were like blown away. They were like, "We're from Montana. That is creepy." And I was like, "No, I've taken like 100 rides. It's totally normal." And they're like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was just telling them how nice it was, and you can play your own music. You don't have to talk to anybody.
That's what people don't expect. They think it'll be like an Uber, but it's actually it's like an Uber Black. It's like a really nice, like more luxurious experience,
and it drives very predictably, and so smoothly, so you're not going to get that like you're not going to have some Uber driver like watching TikTok on his phone while he drives you to like LAX or something like that.
Yes, definitely. Okay, one thing I'm wondering, as a personal finance YouTuber, and you put a lot of like your net worth and everything online, do you ever feel weird like having that information out there?
Yes. So I actually made a decision to stop publishing that stuff maybe like a couple years ago.
Oh, nice.
So I haven't. So like if you go onto my channel, like maybe the latest update was my revealing my portfolio, and that was like $500,000 at the time, but that felt like too much. And I don't know. I just feel like it opens you up to a lot of scrutiny.
I think
and
so.
Also I think like I talked to Nate O'Brien about this. Like it's just not worth it. And yeah, I don't know. I think it just opens you up to a lot of stuff. And then people like they comment weird stuff or like they perceive you differently. And I don't know. I don't think it's like worth sharing. I mean, I think sometimes it is because it's like social proof. Like Graham, you know, when Graham made those videos for like, oh, like revealing my $20 million investment portfolio. Like, it's awesome.
And then it makes you go, okay, I'll listen to someone who's made $20 million.
Yeah. But then the other side of the coin is people are like start hating on him because it's like, oh, this guy, you know, just does everything for YouTube clicks and YouTube views and ads so that he can get richer and buy his, you know, whatever. So like there's a little bit of like that.
Yeah. Or I'd be afraid it's like, even if you hire like a contractor or something, they look up your channel and then they're like, oh, they might charge you more. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's totally a thing. I know like there's a bunch of people that live in, like if you live in a nice place, I hear you get charged more by a contractor. Is that true? Would you say you get charged more by a contractor?
I don't know if I can't really compare it to anything in Palm Springs, but yeah, none of them looked up my YouTube channel, I don't think. Likely. Yeah. Maybe like one of them did.
Like if I were a contractor and I showed up to like a $10 million house, I'm probably being like, yeah, you know, I'll increase that by 10% or 20%.
Yeah, I feel like people would for sure do that. Yeah. I think, it's just weird to feel like sometimes I'll think about it, like meet people at like tennis or whatever. And then I'm like, that's just weird that they could look up. There's just so much information out there that sometimes I'm like, that's just weird to have, I guess.
Yeah. I think as a creator, you have to kind of navigate that. Like, what do you want to share? What do you not want to share? And that's always hard. I think if you guys are creators watching, it's always a little difficult figuring that out. Yeah.
Because I feel like the more you share, you also like connect and people appreciate it. Like there's a lot of benefits to that. Because if you don't share anything, you're just like, it's just not interesting.
That was me for a long time. I didn't share anything. I was just stick to the I still think I stick too much to the facts, so I'm trying to share more, but selective.
Yeah, that's probably good. Do you think you'll get to a point where you'll upload less often, or do you view YouTube as something that you won't do forever? Because I know some people are like,
ooh, that's a good question.
Some people are like, I'm not going to do this when I'm whatever age.
I don't know. I really like making content. I was talking to my friend about it. I was like, yeah, I really like. It's fun.
Yeah.
I don't really see another job I could do yet. Like I've done this 5 years now. I think you've done what, 15?
Yeah.
And it's still, to me, I think it's like it's really fun to press upload, and it's fun to see if people like it. And that's why I wanted to try that show thing, because it's like I want to be really proud of something I put out there and see how it's received and like if I can do better. It's like perfecting my craft.
Like as proud of your videos?
No, still very proud of the financial videos, but I know what works and what doesn't. So sometimes it's like, oh, like we need a video that does well, or else I don't want like 4 10 out of 10s in a row. So I'm like, okay, great. I've got just the video idea to like, you know, crank it back up. And it's always like something I don't really love making.
Yeah.
But you know it'll do well.
Totally.
Like 21 things I don't waste my money on. You'd click on it.
Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I just don't know what'll do well. Like I think I know, and then I'm like, okay, 10 out of 10. Cool. People have like a stereotype of there's not a lot of longevity in social media, but I think there is more in YouTube than just like TikTok or something.
Yeah, I would agree.
I feel like there can be, knock on wood, I'm like, if you just reinvent yourself or like just continue to evolve with it in your own way.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you were able to continue to like keep up with the times and figure out like how you want to pivot that around there, it should be fine.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why I think it's good to build a brand beyond just your channel. Like you have the second vlog channel, now you have this podcast, and then you know you're trying the short form. Like I applaud you in trying all these different things, because it's like you know something's gonna stick even harder one day, and people know you. And I think people know you also because you've been on YouTube for a long time. Like I say Shelby Church, and people are like, oh, I know who that is.
Do they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the time.
What? I'm like, that's wild. So I feel like there was a shift like before COVID. I feel like no one really knew. And then I started, I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I was a little more known, which I was like, okay, that's cool, I guess. I'm glad that happened after I started making the type of content I make now. Right. Versus 10 years ago when I would make like life hacks for back to school.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, ooh, that's good.
And then I had another point. I think high quality content will always rise to the top. So as long as you make something high quality, I think like if you were starting a new channel, like as long as it's good, it'll do well. That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
At least on YouTube specifically. I don't know about the other platforms.
Yeah. Like people do focus a lot on the title and thumbnail and stuff, but it's like sometimes you just know. You're like, this video is good. The actual video, the thumbnail and title doesn't matter as much because people are going to watch through. And that's when YouTube will like share it more. I think. Yeah.
It just does help if it has a good title and thumbnail.
Yeah. And okay, the video that you made about the stock options with that company that you worked at, that was so interesting.
Which, that one. Yeah, that was the tech company I was at.
Yeah. So this is like, would you say maybe your worst investment?
That was probably my worst investment. I lost $100K on that investment. You can use that as a title if you want.
But I love it that you just are like, okay, the title. No, that was crazy because I didn't know that could happen. You should explain.
Yeah, so that happens to a lot of people working at startups. You could be called underwater on your equity. So a lot of startups in the Valley or even just anywhere that offers you stock options, you can buy it from it's a private company. You can buy it from them at a certain price. So I paid, because I was quitting my job, they gave me the option to buy them. And you have 3 months after you quit your job to buy them, or else you don't get that right anymore.
And some people, they just get the stock, right?
There is another type of stock option incentive plan, which is called RSUs. And that's when you actually get the stock.
Yeah.
It's just restricted until they vest, but they're technically as good as the normal stock, and it's yours.
Right.
That probably happens more at like a public company.
Okay.
Like Apple.
Yeah.
Right. With a private company, you usually get some sort of option. So I had the option to buy these shares. It was worth a lot at the time because the company was worth a lot at the time. I think the company was valued at $5 billion. When I got in at like a $600 million valuation. So I figured my options were probably worth 10x. So I bought them and they cost $93,000 or $98,000, I think, whatever it was. And the idea is like, you can't sell your option. Like you can't sell your shares until something happens. So either you IPO or the company buys back your shares for some sort of liquidity event. And that just never happened.
Yeah.
And then what happens is that the company started to do poorly. So they fired their CEO. They asked him to leave when I thought that was the wrong decision because he was like the main guy driving everything there. And then the revenue started to go down. And when the revenue starts to go down and you raise all this money, like you start to get valued less. And then everyone's like bearish on you. And then all of a sudden, like the valuation of the company was like 800 million.
Oh, it's a lot
but by
less.
then, even though I got in at 600 million or whatever it was, they had raised so much more money that the company itself was essentially, they raised more money than they were valued at. So when they eventually merged or got acquired, they had to pay off all the people they owed money to. And so anyone that was a common shareholder, like an employee that bought their shares, it was worthless.
That is so crazy to me.
And that happens all the time in Silicon Valley.
I did not know that. Like, I always heard about stock options, and I guess I thought they were RSUs. I was like, oh, now it makes sense. Of course, option to buy.
Option to buy.
But I was like, you just hear about people making a lot from their stock options in Microsoft back in the day or whatever. But yeah, that's like a good side of the story to hear, because a lot of people don't want to share their losses.
Yeah,
which I respect.
But a lot of people, I think in the Valley, if you do the startup game, which is you go from one startup to another, hoping that they IPO, a lot of them don't work out. And so you have a lot of these people that have worked at 5 different startups who they've never made money on their startup exit. But then you have like the one-off person who goes and works at like Snowflake. Snowflake was a big IPO like 3 years ago, and their work or their equity becomes worth like $5 million, and all of a sudden they got $5 million. When you could have been anyone else working at like another great company and it just didn't do the same. So it's just kind of like a lottery, up to chance a little bit.
Yeah,
you can kind of like try to gauge it, like good investors, good backing, good market, etc. But it's hard.
I know a lot of YouTubers do angel investing, so investing in smaller companies, because we'll get approached by companies sometimes who want even just like a small check just to like say that you invested in them. Have you done any? Like, have they done well?
I think I've done 7. And the check sizes were anywhere between 5 to 15K. And I think 3 of the companies have already bankrupted. So I'm down, whatever, 25K. Which is typical.
Yeah.
One has done extremely well. They're valued way more now, but on paper.
Yeah.
And then the other 3, another one has done really well too, but a buddy of mine started it and he's just crushing it. It's like a software SaaS business.
Nice.
So I have those 2 that are good, and then the other 2 that are not dead are just kind of flat. So it's kind of up in the air. It's kind of like you pretend that money never existed and you just hope that it gets you some money back one day.
Yeah. Like, do you do it because you like the mission or the founders? Or
Yeah, typically I like the mission of the founder. I do get approached for a lot of these like random things. Like I'll just get sent a deck. And I'm like, I don't really know if I want to invest in this.
Yeah.
Like 5K. Because 5K you can do it many times, but it's like sometimes like if you don't know them at all, and it's like you don't know like what they're gonna do with it.
I know. The way I view it, I'm like, most of them are probably not gonna like make it big. So I'm always like, I'd rather invest in like stocks or real estate.
Yeah, and then it's like the 5K going to turn into 100K? Like, are you going to get a 20X, or are you going to get like 5K to 12K? And it's like, okay, well, I think I'd rather just have the 5K now instead of waiting like 4 years for you to figure your life out. Yeah.
Because the amount of time they might be like, oh yeah, it went up like whatever, like double in value. And you're like, well, it would have done that in the stock market.
Yeah, exactly. So. Opportunity cost.
Yeah. Okay, as our last question, I love asking people this. So I feel like everyone has like a for fun purchase that is a bad investment. Think a boat, a plane kind of thing.
Oh.
Some people have said a horse. Like you can get creative. I'm wondering what yours would be. There's no like limit on the money. It's like not a good investment, but like purely for fun thing that you would buy.
I think I want a fancy watch.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yes, I want a Patek.
Oh, cool.
It's like a really fancy watch
I've heard
brand.
of it in rap songs.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I guess it would technically go up in value maybe, so it's not like the worst investment. So
like
it's
a
not
Birkin.
just for fun.
It could be a good investment.
But I think it'd be fun. It'd be fun to have.
That's a fun one. Yeah. For a while, I was like, a boat would be fun, but I'm like, once I get electric boats that don't need as much maintenance.
I think a snowmobile would be fun,
or
a jet ski.
A jet ski, actually, you know, they're not that expensive. Like those would be
$3,000.
Yeah,
yeah, that would be really fun to have one.
Right? Like I would imagine there'd be a lot more.
What's the rule on riding your jet ski in like the ocean? Can you just like take it to Santa Monica and just ride?
There's rentals. I've seen people can do it. I think they might do them either out of Marina Del Rey or Malibu usually. And people will do it all the way to Catalina Island.
Oh, wow. That's far.
That would scare me. I don't think I would do that. But I do think it'd be a vibe to go from Marina Del Rey to Malibu.
That would be a pretty cool vibe.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could just do that.
Yeah, you can rent them.
I don't ever see anyone doing it.
I know. It's a good business idea, I think. Like, could be a good way to get around.
Good business.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Shelby.
It was so fun to chat. And we're going to record for Humphrey's podcast. So I'll link that below if you guys want to check that out too.
Yes.
Go follow.
We will do a 45-minute chat with Shelby.
Yes. Amazing. Okay, cool. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Bye.